Good morning, everybody. This is Alex Raymond. Great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And the topic is quarterly business reviews, what every account manager loves to hate. And the conversation today is going to be around how we can rethink, reframe, and reorient ourselves around how we do QBRs to make sure we're actually getting something out of these meetings. And so I'm going to walk you today through some ideas on how we might be able to do that. We're going to talk about some critical reframes. I'm going to also offer some questions that you can be asking yourselves and your team around how you think about quarterly business reviews. And then we're going to wrap up with a preview of a program that we're launching at AMplify called QBR Mastery, and that starts in January. So that's what we are going to do today. We're going to do all of that in 30 minutes or less. So as usual, we are just jumping into the deep end of the pool here. I'm so glad to be with you guys as curious and career motivated account managers to try to figure out how we really make these quarterly business reviews work best for us. So let's get started. And I just want to give one quick caveat before we jump in, which is that I'm going to use the word QBRs today, quarterly business reviews is what that stands for. People use different words for this. They call them strategy reviews or executive reviews. There's lots of different words for them. Just think of a QBR as the time when I can spend strategic, engaged, good chunks of time, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 2 hours or more with a client talking about stuff that's important. That's what I'm thinking of when I'm talking about a QBR. It doesn't have to happen on a quarterly basis, although that certainly is the tendency within most of the account management teams that I work with. So let's jump into this and talk a little bit about what's going on and how we might be able to reframe this for success for ourselves. So first, I want to start by making a very clear point and acknowledging that many of you are probably getting ghosted in your QBRs. You spend a lot of time putting these together. You spend a lot of time organizing your thoughts and putting together your slide decks and preparing your internal stakeholders, and you put a lot of care and effort into creating your QBRs, and often the client numbers dwindle as the time approaches. So you get people bailing because something important came up, or they have a client call, or they have a call with their executive team, or what have you. And it's super frustrating to get ghosted like this. And it's really disheartening. And the reasons that you're getting ghosted are that your meetings, your QBRs, simply aren't that valuable to your customers. That's the honest truth here. If your meetings were valuable, they would prioritize attending over all the other demands on their time. But as we have it currently set up, your meetings simply aren't good enough to warrant them carving out the time and protecting that time themselves, right? They say to themselves things like, why should I bother? There's no clear purpose probably to your QBRs. A lot of your QBRs could have been an email because you're just regurgitating information that they could have read. You probably are talking to the wrong people in the room. There's so much emphasis on making sure that we get the C-suite involved in our meetings, and we show up and we talk very tactically, and we talk to the manager level people instead of talking to the C-suite people because we're sometimes afraid of talking to the C-level person. We also typically make these meetings all about us and less about the customer. And because of this, the clients really feel like they aren't walking away with any types of insights. And I know that this drives you crazy, right? You spend so much time getting ready for the QBR. You follow the slide deck and the template and the process that your boss gave you, and you wind up with a pretty blah experience, pretty much uninspired experience for a lot of QBRs. And what this means is you're not getting the results that you want, and your client sure isn't getting the results that they want either. So what can we do about that? How do we change this? How do we reframe our thinking to make sure that we are getting the results that we're looking for from our QBRs? I'm going to propose that there's a whole bunch of outdated thinking going on within account management and customer success teams about how they think about QBRs. And with a few simple shifts, we can change a lot of that dynamic. So I'm going to use this old way, new way framing and walk through 7 really critical points very quickly so that you can see what that shift looks like and how we can go from, the old way of thinking where, this is like it's like a requirement. I have to do it. And it's very routine and it's very standardized and it's very like static, and frankly, boring, to something that's going to be dynamic, interesting, lively, and is going to help everybody to get their needs met. So I'm going to use this framework so we can talk through some of these things. And as I'm doing so, you may notice that you're like, oh, hey, this reminds me exactly of how we're doing things today, and so on. And that's okay. Like the point here is not to torch any of the old things that we're doing. It's to deliver insights so you can start to think more creatively. You can think outside of the box around how you might be approaching your QBRs and what you can be doing differently. So I'm going to run through each of these. It's only going to be a couple of minutes on each one. And the point here is not to create an exhaustive list with this huge list of action items and stuff like that for you. The point instead is to simply deliver some nuggets that you can think about so that you can consider how might I apply some of this stuff into my organization. So let's talk about the first one. The first one is what I call moving from checking the box to owning the opportunity. And what this looks like is, for so many teams, QBRs are just like this thing we have to do. A lot of teams I've seen, like their bonuses or their KPIs are based on the number of QBRs that they do. So guess what? They do QBRs, right? It's viewed as a totally transactional routine thing where I literally have to just get through these as fast as possible. So I schedule them out and I get my 60 or 90 minutes and just like boom, 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 I try to get it done. And when I do that, then guess what happens? I wind up having these QBRs where it's just me talking the whole time and I want to get it done as soon as possible. And I'm not taking the opportunity that is being presented to me. And so the shift that I want you to think about and how this might work for you is to say, actually, a QBR is a tremendous opportunity to spend some amount of time, an hour or two, with one of my most important customers to talk about what matters to them and how I can help them to succeed in 2025 and beyond. Like when I view it as an opportunity, as a gift, really, like, hey, I really can take this opportunity to grow my relationship, to develop my book of business, to reduce any risks within the account. Like the number of things you can do within a QBR is a lot. When I think of it that way, instead of like just this thing I have to get done, my attitude changes, how I show up changes. I'm able to think more creatively. I get more inspired. And guess what? Everybody gets more out of the meetings. So the very first one here is a simple mindset shift to say, this is not something you have to be doing. This is something you get to be doing. And with that opportunity, what are you going to do with it? How are you then able to fully capture the opportunity that is presenting itself to you? So that's the first one I want to share here. And it's a very simple mindset shift. And by the way, if you're looking at this and you think, oh man, I'm one of those bosses or VPs who require all these QBRs and all this sort of stuff, this is a great opportunity to rethink that and instead focus on the opportunity. The second thing is the volume of data that we present to people at QBRs. I don't know when this happened. I don't know where in the history of quarterly business reviews we decided that this was time to go through all of the data, all of the usage, all of the support statistics, all of the everything that we've ever done for this customer, and literally deliver like reams and reams and reams of paper and information to the client. It's a total data dump, and the client feels like there's not a lot of insights here, right? It's just like information that we're forcing on them. And it's almost as though we do this because we think that the more information we can generate, it sort of gives us value. It makes us look more important to be doing all this stuff. And I think what we wind up doing instead is exhausting and frustrating our customers. And my recommendation here, my invitation here is, can we switch from like just literally overwhelming the clients with data to bringing in the couple of nuggets, the few insights that they need to understand, are we moving in the right direction? So for example, instead of showing up with just like, here's all the logins or all the issues or all the campaigns that we ran or all the clicks that we generated for you, or whatever the thing is. Let's just focus on one or two or three really compelling metrics and show the delta from one meeting to the next or from one quarter to the next type of thing. And the reason that we want to be doing this is, remember that our clients are hiring us for our expertise. They're hiring us because we work with a lot of other companies in their industry. They're hiring us because we know our product and service super well. So we're good at doing benchmarks. And so if we can walk into a QBR and instead of listing out all this stuff, we've just pulled out the two or three things that matter, and then we have a detailed and robust conversation around that, then that's something that's going to be really valuable to our clients. They're going to remember that, and that's going to be something that they look forward to attending instead of feeling like they have to read through all this stuff that we're sending them. It also, of course, respects our time and the client's time. So really important for us to be thinking in those ways. I've seen way too many QBR decks that are 50 plus slides long, and that's not what we want to be doing. We want to be doing like really focused conversation, keep it tight, keep it on what matters, deliver just the targeted insights that we need to have a robust conversation. Third piece is the typical, like, I'm just going to show up and talk. So show up and throw up, as they say, versus changing this dynamic into more of a dialogue or into more of a conversation. And I want to just acknowledge here that you've probably heard this advice like a million times. If you've been to any of my webinars in the past, if you've been to any of my events, if you've literally like read anything online about how to do a QBR, they almost all say the same thing. And it sounds very straightforward and it sounds very easy, but I want to share with you that this can be difficult. Like, this is hard. It's hard to do this. It could be scary to be in a room with people that you maybe don't know very well and orchestrate a meaningful conversation instead of just standing up and saying, okay, and doing all the talking yourself. And so part of the shift in how we do QBRs here is literally like the physical presence that I show up with. It's the energy, it's the confidence that I have. And so think about this as, the more confidence I have, I'm able then to run this like a conversation. I can ask questions of my customers, C-level executives who are in the room. I can disagree with a customer if they talk about something. We can orchestrate a really great dialogue if we're doing this well. This helps us to position ourselves as a strategic partner, as a trusted advisor to our customer, as opposed to, I literally just, I'm like a wind-up doll, right? We just crank the person up, we put them in there, and they talk, and then 59 and a half minutes are up, and they say, any questions? And then they get out of there. Like, that's not what we want to be doing. Your clients, if they really do say, oh, this could have been an email, that is the definition of it could have been an email, is when someone's just talking at you for a period of time. And so, my invitation here, the recommendation is, as you're preparing for the business review, as you're preparing for this time with the client, work into the schedule. Here's when we're going to ask them these questions. Here's where we're going to maybe share some things that we have uncertainty or doubts about. Here's how we're going to elicit more input from them. So the agenda should not just be, I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about that. It should build in to the agenda. Here's some very clear moments for us to ask for feedback, to ask for insights, to ask for ideas from the customer, and see how that changes the energy in the room. See how that changes how your customers show up. When we invite them to talk and we give them the opportunity to do so, they will, right? Everyone will take that opportunity. And so our job then turns from presenter into a facilitator of a really great conversation. And by the way, this is another really important point of why our customers are working with us, is because of how well we know their company, how well we know their organization. And we get to show that by orchestrating a really nice dialogue-driven style of quarterly business review. This next one I want to share is about the difference between playing defense and playing offense in QBRs. And I have seen way too many QBRs where it seems like the whole reason we're here is to justify my existence as a vendor and my existence as an account manager. That's the definition of playing defense. And the entire the entire presentation feels like me saying, here's all the things that I've done. Please don't fire me. Please don't fire us. Keep working with us. Here's how great we are. Those are literally just us playing defense. And we're reacting to the customer. We are falling into the trap of being like the customer is up here and we're down there. So like this one up, one down sort of thing. So we're falling into that trap. And that's not useful for anybody. Like the client doesn't want that. They hired us for our expertise and our talents and our ability to go get stuff done. They don't want us to show up and underplay it. They also don't want us to show up and just kind of take this totally subservient point of view on them. And yes, we have this concept that the customer is always right, but in many of these strategic accounts that you're working on, they are working with us because they want us to be a partner, because they want us to help get very, very significant and meaningful things done with them. And so the shift here is, can I go from playing defense to playing offense? Playing offense would mean showing up with a proactive plan, with a direction, a vision. Here's where we're going. Here's how we're going to help you get there. Very clearly done our research on what's important to our customer. We've done voice of customer interviews. We've done kind of all the things that we might need to do to understand where they're going and know what their goals are and their initiatives and their challenges and so on. And so offense looks like I show up, I talk about the big opportunities that they are pursuing. Here's how we can help you get there. I'm very clear in the value that we are providing. I'm very clear on how we are an integral part of them hitting their objectives. The energy behind this, the mindset behind this is totally different. So I am not this like, oh, I'm just another vendor, please don't fire me. No, I'm an incredibly important part of you getting to where you want to go. And by the way, if we weren't working together in the future, your chances of getting there would be vastly reduced. That's the difference between playing offense and playing defense. And in your mind, I want you to start thinking, am I playing to win in these kind of conversations, or am I playing not to lose? And whenever you find yourself playing not to lose, shift that back to I'm playing to win. I can help the customer here. We're really important to their long-term success. That's a really, really important mindset shift there. Another one that you've heard probably a million times is talk less about you, talk more about the customer. And again, this is the kind of thing that you might read it a lot, you might have heard it before, you might have heard it on our podcast or whatever. But the idea is, how do I implement this stuff? Your clients don't want you to show up and talk about, oh, here's all the great things that we did, and we opened a new office in Germany this year, and here's our product roadmap, and here's me. Like, they don't want to hear that. They can read that stuff on your website. What they want to do instead is take this opportunity with you as a valued, trusted partner to talk about where they're trying to go and have you deeply understand what's going on in their world and how they're trying to solve the challenges and problems that are in front of them today. That's what they want. So any time that I spend talking about stuff that they literally can read on my website is not a good use of the time. The good use of the time is, hey, Madam Customer, Mr. Customer, what's going on in your world as we approach 2025? How did X, Y, and Z thing change your outlook on that? What's different from when we talked about this last time? So referring back, for example, to previous things that we've talked about. What's different? What's changed in your world? Those are the kind of conversations that your customer wants to be having. They're not asking you to come to them with like the most basic, obvious questions, right? That's not what they want. What they want is you to bring your insights and you to bring the second order questions, like the next level stuff, and show that you care, show that you're committed to them, and then really say, how do we help build on the success of where we've been so that we can go even farther together in the future? Like, that is a great QBR conversation to be having. That's exactly what we want to be doing. So you've probably all seen, and well, I'm not going to get into this today, but you've probably all seen, here's the top 5 voice of customer questions to be asking, or here's really great customer discovery questions to be asking. All that type of stuff is exactly what you can be drawing on for this part of the conversation, so that you are showing up, asking those really great next level questions, and having the customer talk more about what they care about. Lastly, I want to share this idea that we just have a QBR template, so we're going to use that for all of our clients, and it's got these 15 slides in it, and then you put in the gigantic appendix of data, and then there we go. One size fits all is not going to work. And any customer who's big enough and strategic enough to warrant a significant business review like this is going to need some tailoring. We are going to have somewhat of a customized approach for each customer. I've been in examples where the client will actually provide the deck, and they'll say, every time we meet, we want to report on these 5 things, and here's the sequence we like, and so on. That's great because they're telling you how they want you to communicate with them. Other clients are going to have different needs around that. They're going to have different ideas. They're going to have different experiences. So don't assume that your wonderful PowerPoint deck is going to work 100% of the time. Instead, this is a great chance for us to get creative and for us to start thinking about the needs of our customers, to say, what is it that's gonna be most effective here? How can we tailor this? How can we make this so that we really are showing the client we understand how unique they are? And by the way, when we do that, we're also showing how committed we are and how important we think they are. So ditch the one size fits all. That's not the point of this. Instead, figure out how to best communicate what you want to communicate with your customers. That's going to help you to get there. And then finally, are these future forward or past focused? So are we looking out of the front of the car? Are we looking in the rearview mirror when we're having these meetings? So you've probably been in many of these types of QBRs where it literally just feels like we're hashing over stuff we've already talked about. Here's what we did last month. Here's what we did the month before that. Here's what we did 3 months ago. Isn't this great? Look at us. Look at all the stuff that we've done, over the last 90 days for you. Aren't we wonderful? Nobody cares about that. Literally 0 people care about that. By the time you've delivered that service, it's table stakes. The customer has forgotten already. What they want to hear in the future is, here's where we're going. Here's the things that are coming up for us. Here's where we've gotten you here, and now we can take you even farther. You do that, you get them energized about the vision for the future, and you have a much more effective conversation. Literally, anytime I see people going through, here's all the great things we did for you over the last 90 days, over the last 6 months, I think there's no way a customer is going to sit through this. The customer is going to be asleep by the time we get to the second slide, right? Or they're going to be multitasking on their phone or whatever. We don't want to do that. Don't make your QBRs only about the past. Make them way more about the future and how you can help your customer get there. Very, very important shift. So that was 7 really quick things that I wanted to share so that you can see the way that your mindsets, the way that your behaviors, the way that your kind of historical thinking about QBRs is probably leading to your customers ghosting you. If you do things the old way, it's going to keep happening. They're going to not show up. You're not going to get as much value, and they're not going to get as much value about the QBRs. And frankly, at some point, the conversation is going to come up. Why do these things at all? Why are we doing these QBRs at all? On the other hand, if you shift into doing these the new way, looking at this as an opportunity to have a deep connection and a meaningful conversation with your customer that's focused on the future and where they're trying to go, and we really figure out how to ask great questions that are going to be insightful and going to help guide the conversation, that's going to yield a completely different flavor and a totally different feeling to our quarterly business review. So here's some questions I want you to start asking yourself. I want you to ask yourself these as a way of just simply reflecting. And it's not like there's a right or a wrong answer to these questions here. I want you to ask yourself, with a kind of an open mind. And these can be a great way to bring this conversation up to a broader group, say within your company or within your team. Ask yourself questions like, are these QBRs truly in the service of our customer? Right? Are we really doing this for them? Or do we have a hidden agenda? Because by the way, the customer can always spot the hidden agenda from a mile away. So are we really doing this with a spirit of service and generosity toward our customers? You may also ask yourself, are we segmenting our customers properly? Does everybody need a QBR every 90 days? The answer is probably not, but you got to figure out what that means for you and how you might segment or make that different. You may also ask yourself, how do your customers want to engage with you, right? Nobody necessarily signed up. Like when they signed their contract with you, did it say we're going to force feed you a QBR every 90 days? It probably didn't. So ask yourself, what does the customer actually want from us, and how do they want to be communicated with? You may also say, are we getting what we want out of these meetings, right? And if you're honest about it, you're probably not getting what you fully want out of them. You're probably saying, oh man, we're leaving a lot on the table, or boy, the customer really wasn't engaged with that conversation. That you're probably going to have those types of feelings or experiences. And then finally, ask yourself, as you show up, this is the question about playing offense or playing defense. Am I playing to win, or am I playing not to lose? And if you ask yourself these questions, I would literally take this list of questions. We'll send it around in the follow-up email. Take this list of questions and go to your team and have a lunch meeting where all we're doing is talking about these questions, right? As it relates to QBRs, you're going to find some really, really interesting results. And so here's what my invitation to you. Here's what I want you to be doing. Here's what the world wants from you. The world doesn't want you to keep doing QBRs the way you've been doing them just because. The world wants you to show up with the courage to think differently and the courage to challenge the way we've always done things. So the phrase is just like we've always done it is not good enough. It's not going to cut it in 2025 if we want to be doing things differently. The world also wants you to show up and be creative and thoughtful about how you approach your customers, how you work with them, how you deliver value for them, and how you communicate that to them. And then finally, the world wants you to be more customer centric. Your QBRs today are probably not very customer centric because you're probably just talking about yourself. You're talking a mile a minute. You are just presenting, and it could have been an email. So ask yourself, how do I really make this customer centric? Well, it's by understanding the needs, the desires, the goals of your customer, their preferences for how you communicate with them, and then honoring those and very clearly showing how you can help them to get there. The worst thing you can do is treat your QBR just like a check-in. Oh, it's 90 days. Okay, I just got to go call. I hope everything's going okay, and I got to get off the phone as soon as I can. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is we are taking responsibility as account managers to really develop excellent relationships that help our customers to get their goals. So I want to share this with you in terms of you understanding where we might be going and what's happening. Now, as we wrap up, I just want to offer everything I just shared is a simple preview of a program that I'm running in January and February called QBR Mastery. And this is a chance to change how we think about QBRs to get way better results. So this program runs January 14th to February 18th. It's called QBR Mastery, using strategic meetings to grow your account. It's a 6-week program. You can see the schedule listed out there. It meets every Tuesday for 1 hour. And this includes both instructor-led presentation and discussion and implementation tips from the group. So this is a really great chance for you to come together and say, you know what, I am going to focus on this. I'm going to turn QBRs into my competitive advantage. I'm going to get really, really good at doing QBRs, and I'm going to use these to grow my accounts, to identify opportunities, and to reduce risks. If that's what you want to do, check out this QBR Mastery course. So we're going to do everything from reframing how we think about QBRs to talking about how to build an agenda, get the right people in the room, how to deliver one in a dialogue fashion as opposed to just a monologue. We're going to go deeper into that offense and defensive framework that I was just talking about. We're going to do a practice together, and then we're going to talk about how to build this into your team. So those are all parts of this program that's coming up in January, and I really want to encourage you to join us. QBR Mastery is part of the AMplify community. AMplify is what I call the growth community for account managers. So this is an online community where the top 1% of account managers are getting together and they're showing their commitment to their personal growth, to their careers, to their professional growth. And what AMplify includes is a network of account managers from around the world in different industries, and doing all sorts of really interesting things. So a huge network of members. It includes live courses like QBR Mastery, a video library of previous courses and stuff that we've done, templates, so PowerPoints or PDFs or things that you need to build a QBR or create an account plan or do an opportunity identification, any of those types of stuff. That's all included within the AMplify membership. And the first 100 founding members of AMplify save 50% for life. So let me share what that means. AMplify is an annual membership. The annual membership is just under $1,000 for the year. So by the way, like super cheap compared to all the other options you've got for training your account managers. So for just under $1,000 a year, I'm getting access to a library of video content, a huge network of peers, and all these templates and resources that I can immediately put to use. So all that is yours for $1,000 a year. And for the first 100 members, it's actually yours for $499 a year. So compare that to bringing in a trainer, bringing in a consultant, doing all the other things that you might be doing around training your account management team in 2025, and think of what a strong option this is to your folks. So if you're ready to join the top 1% of account managers and be part of this incredible community of top performers, check out amplifyam.com. I'll send all this in an email so you can see it later, but this is going to be the place for you. And I look forward to seeing you inside the community. So thank you very much for joining me today.